This is Untether.tv, where we get inside the business of mobile. Here's your host, Rob Woodbridge.
Hello everybody, Rob Woodbridge from Untether.tv, where we get inside the business of mobile. And sometimes I do this where there's a great story that has come up, and I really want to highlight it because it has a huge impact on mobile. And this is one of those stories. It's the story about the nets leveraging geo-marketing and Gowalla as their platform. And I've got the guy here who was project manager of that over at Vayner Media, Sam Taggart. Sam, thanks for coming on and sharing the story.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
So let's jump right into it. We were talking a little bit beforehand about this conversation that's been going on the web about companies like Foursquare and Gowalla and Rally Up and all these other ones that are really geo-tagging locations where you are, and people are wondering, why is this relevant? And you guys have come up with a pretty innovative way to help the nets create awareness or buzz or bring people into the stadium. So what was the genesis for this?
Okay, so basically, I work for Vayner Media, which is a digital brand agency in New York City. We help consumer brands with building communities through social media, through interaction, through content creation, through campaigns like this one. And one of our clients is the New Jersey Nets. And the Nets, didn't have the greatest season this year, but they have a really awesome marketing department. They're very open-minded and forward-thinking, and they were willing to run this campaign with Gowalla. The background is that we placed 250 pairs of tickets throughout New York and New Jersey, within 75 miles of the Nets home arena, which is also in New Jersey. They were targeted at sports-themed locations or outdoor kind of recreational facilities like parks or zoos. We wanted to target people that were either active, that went out and did things, or people that were interested in sports, but we wanted to target the Gowalla user base. So basically, when they checked into the various locations through Gowalla, they were able to, some were able to redeem these virtual tickets that were, in the end, redeemable for actual tickets to a Nets game in New Jersey. So I think that really what happened was that the Nets wanted to, the Nets strive to be innovative, and Vayner Media thought about this campaign and brought it up to them, and they were totally willing to run with it. And Gowalla was great also, and it was just a fun campaign and a way to get the conversation going, really going about how geolocation can monetize and how it can help businesses and all the value it can bring for not only brands but the users as well. So it was a really fun campaign to be a part of.
So when Vayner Media has only been around for a very short period of time, like less than a year, hasn't it? Since
Yeah, we started late May of 2009.
Okay, so just about a year, coming up on 1 year. And
Yep.
So why don't we just take a step back and you come from the social media background? That's what your expertise is?
That's correct. I mean, I actually just graduated from the University of Southern California last May, but for the last several years, I actually, one of the things about social media is that you don't have to be necessarily experienced for, a decade or so or 2 decades to have this expertise in social media. I grew up with social media. I was, one of the first years to get Facebook. I was just toying with social media for the last 5 or so years. So I think, we're all relatively new to this space, but that's where my background is. I had a degree in communication. Social media is really where my interest was, and for the last 5 years, it's what I've been doing. So that's kind of how I got going with Vayner Media.
And so you were handed this opportunity to work with the Nets. What was this the first thing that popped into your head, or were there other options? Were they looking at different things? And how did you kind of move them into this arena, which is the geo marketing stuff?
Right. Well, at first we did all of the kind of basic things. We, established a Facebook account and a Twitter account, and we started to interact there and really produce content. And we wanted to get the basics going. We really believe that building a community is the most important part of social media. Without a community, you really don't have, you're not speaking to anybody, you're not interacting with your fans. So the first effort is always to build the community. So that's really what we spent the first couple of months doing. We ran several campaigns, but they were all through Facebook and Twitter. And then we thought, okay, what's the next step? Where do we go from here? And what is really being spoken about in our community? And it was geolocation. And we decided to move forward with this campaign because it really provided, the Nets with a great opportunity. They were the first pro sports team in any league to run a campaign of this nature with a geolocation platform. We chose Gowalla because they have the ability to provide virtual items, which other geolocation platforms don't provide. So that's why we went with Gowalla. And we really just saw a cool opportunity to do something in the event space, and the Nets, gave us that opportunity because of their open-mindedness.
So, when you so they were completely open to this. You pitched it to them. You said, we'll do what you want.
Well, yeah. I mean, of course, they were a little bit hesitant. They didn't, Gowalla really, and geolocation isn't really being spoken about in the mainstream marketing kind of conversation. It is, but it also isn't so much. They didn't know a ton about Gowalla. They didn't really know a ton about the benefits that would occur because of it. They didn't necessarily know how the platform worked, or if it was too risky or anything. So what it came down to was the fact that they trust VaynerMedia to provide them with some solid ideas, and we told them that we would help them execute, and Gowalla was great. So. A lot of it was trust. A lot of it was the ability to trust us in providing them with a good idea.
And that goes so far. And I think that when you're somewhat desperate to be able to get people into the seats and introduce the brand of the Nets to other, one of the points in the white paper was in introducing the brand of the Nets to the next generation of Nets fan, or get people who are in the area that may never have been to a game to go to this thing and go and watch the franchise.
Exactly. We wanted to. I mean, the Nets did have a bad season, and they've had a bad. They're in a bad stretch right now. But we also see a lot of reasons that the Nets, or a lot of reasons to believe the Nets are moving in a positive direction. So we really wanted to attack an audience that might not have typically gone to a basketball game, because even if one of those people that visited the game converts into a fan, then they're getting value out of that, because they're going to be a return customer. They're going to buy merchandise. They're going to watch on TV. So we thought that the possible benefits were just so high that we just thought it was too big of an opportunity to pass up on.
So there's so much discussion about geotagging, geolocation. This Foursquare Gowalla battle that's going on. One South by Southwest, it's Foursquare. The next, it's Gowalla,
right.
And all of these copycat companies that are coming up in this space. You mentioned it before that Gowalla was the only one that you felt was the appropriate platform because it allowed you to pick things up and drop things, right? So there was digital physical property that you were exchanging, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that Foursquare obviously has massive benefits and massive potential, and they've partnered with a lot of great brands to do a lot of great things so far. But for our specific situation, we had these expiring items, these tickets that were going to be of no use if they were unfilled, and we knew that Gowalla had the ability to possibly drive people into those seats through virtual goods, which were then redeemable for the actual tickets. So it's really the only reason we went with Gowalla over anything else, was because we saw that synergy there.
So this relationship with Gowalla, obviously, I know that Gary's an investor. It's full disclosure, and that's. But the relationship with Gowalla, is that something that they'd be open to with other companies or with other groups or with other franchises that? Because they did quite a bit, obviously, for working with the Nets and you guys to get this up and running.
Absolutely. I mean, well, first of all, yes, Gary is an investor in Gowalla, and but again, that had nothing to do with the reason that we chose them. VaynerMedia is not related with them at all, but Gary is, yes. Then the second point, yeah, I think that I know that the Gowalla is definitely open to doing more things with other brands. Soon after the Nets did this campaign, the NBA actually, created a partnership with Gowalla to do a playoff campaign. So the Nets actually beat the NBA to the punch on this one. But Gowalla's partnered with other companies. They partnered with Adobe and Chipotle, and they're going to continue to partner with brands. I think that's really the play there, is that they can partner with brands to create great opportunities for consumers, and I think they're going to continue to do so down the line. That's
so, we'll take a little sidestep on this, because that's so, it's such a different path that these two companies are taking in this space, right? I mean, Foursquare, heavily reliant on becoming a mayor of a location and then getting benefit for being that mayor, in theory, right? There's a number of places even around my city where they get free admission to, there's no cover to a club or something if they've, if you're the mayor. Or if you just show you're checking in at that location on Foursquare. Gowalla, completely different tact. One that actually might generate revenue a little bit sooner than anything else. But ultimately, do you think that this play is a lot about data, right? All of these guys, Gowalla, Foursquare, and all these guys are it's all about the data that they're accumulating about people's patterns and locations and. Is that the be all and end all, do you think, for these guys, or is it really about what Gowalla is doing, which is working with brands?
I mean, I think that it's both. I think that data collection is obviously something that that everybody strives for. Is social media in essence is all about data collection, right? Mm-hmm. It's a more personal and more social. A Facebook page is really a more personal and social email list. You have the ability to gather information about people. So I think that's definitely the play to some extent. But working with brands is also giving them the opportunity to not only generate revenue, but to create cool partnerships and kind of reach different spaces. So I think it's a combination of both. And I want to go back to what you said about being a mayor versus being versus Gowalla's kind of play with virtual items. Yeah. The difference that we really see is that Foursquare gives a benefit to one person, the mayor of a location, whereas Gowalla has the ability to give tons of people in one location some advantage. For example, when people actually went to the game, the Nets game against the Bobcats, they were able to check in and then possibly get a jersey out of it. The campaign extended into the game, and because people checked in at the arena, they were able to get these actual real items for checking in. Now, if it were Foursquare, it would just be one person getting this advantage because they were the mayor. Right. So I think that's an interesting play there.
So yeah, I mean, can we just walk through that process that you guys did? So if anybody hasn't read this white paper, I implore you to go. It's up on your blog at vaynermedia.com. And it's, the concept, 75 pairs of tickets, right? Was it 75 pairs of tickets?
So we actually had 250 pairs of tickets that were distributed. Okay. Would you like me to run through it real quick?
Yeah, and if you could even talk about, when you interacted and when you worked with the Nets and Gowalla and how they work together, because I mean the tickets, even the icons were customized, weren't they, by Gowalla, the artwork?
Absolutely.
So just walk us through that whole process, because it's just so fascinating.
Great. So yeah, basically after the concept, we reached out to Gowalla and we reached out to the Nets, and we brought them together, and kind of everyone was really on board with the process. But of course, there was a lot of work involved for both parties. So the process was that Gowalla had to create these virtual items. They had to create these tickets that were available for redemption when people picked them up. So people would, someone would check into a location, a sports bar somewhere, and they would grab this virtual item that Gowalla had created.
Let's talk. So were the locations predetermined by somebody? Were they random?
Yep. So we scattered them within 75 miles of the arena in New Jersey and New York, and they were targeted. The genre of location was targeted. So it was sports team locations. It was outdoor recreational facilities, but they weren't specifically targeted So we really had no idea as to exactly where the goods were stored, but people were able to redeem them based on being at these targeted locations. So yeah, they weren't completely random, but we didn't know exactly which ones were targeted.
Yeah.
So yeah, once people checked in, they were able to redeem these tickets, and they also got an email to the account, the email address that was associated with the account, which told them that they had won this ticket. It was redeemable for an actual ticket at the box office of the Izod Center, which is where the Nets played, on April 12th. They were instructed to go and visit this table that we had set up at the game and redeem their ticket there. I'm trying to take it a little bit slower, though. I'm trying to think about anything in those details that you might be interested in.
Well, when they so how many pairs of tickets were at each location? Was it just one set of tickets, or was it in 250 locations, or was there just kind of multiple sets? Do you know?
No, there were multiple sets at some locations, but they were scattered throughout. I would say 100 or so, or even more than 100 locations. So, so they were all across the city into New Jersey, as long as it was within that 75-mile radius. And so, yeah, just because someone checked in at one location doesn't mean that the ticket was then gone from that location. The idea was to capture people by surprise almost. We wanted that wow factor, like, oh, I'm going to check into Modell's. Oh, wait, I just got this free ticket. It was almost trying to really wow them into going into the game.
And those locations did not know that they were participating in this.
No, they had no idea.
Well, because you think that, I mean, you go to a lotto stand and it says, hey, big $10 million jackpot won here. You'd think that, the awareness that those guys now have that they were, that, somebody won Nets tickets from their location. Is that, I mean, would you ever consider working in partnership with these guys like that?
That's definitely a play, and it's something that we foresee doing in the future, but really this was a complete test.
Yeah.
We were doing this for the very first time, and we kind of wanted to test it at a bare level.
Yep.
But I can definitely see that happening at some point where we partner with specific locations to actually give these away, and that's another point of revenue possibly.
Sure.
I was sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. Oh yeah, I was going to say that the locations are all user created. So I can go to a sports bar and create that location. Now, not all of them are user created. It might be the actual person from the company or the actual business that creates that location. But I have the ability to create any location that I'd like. So that's a point about Gowalla and Foursquare. That you're able to create these locations. It's not necessarily the fact that the business owns that spot, which is also an interesting thought, and maybe a conversation that's going to happen down the line is, do these companies actually have some ownership of these spots? I don't know. Maybe that's a play for Gowalla and Foursquare to decide on their own. So
absolutely, yeah.
It's
at some point somebody's got to make that decision if it's my place. But you can start to leverage that. Is that there could be random drawings if you check in at these locations, right? I don't know. I mean, probably way off topic here, but it's interesting because it's just the ripple effect of something like this is pretty massive.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think that going off topic is a great thing, because really what we wanted to do was start this, or not even start, just continue this conversation that's going around geolocation. Now, anything that someone can think of because of this case study that we put out there is exactly what we wanted out of it. So there's definitely we posted the blog and the case study, and we had over 150 comments just with people riffing about ideas about what might happen or what businesses could do. So I think we're just at the very beginning of the possibilities with geolocation and businesses.
Well, I absolutely agree with you there. We're getting a little stagger on the video, so hopefully it'll come back. Do you want to just flip your video off and on for a second, Sam?
Absolutely. Yep. Is it back?
Yeah, we're back. Okay.
Great.
So now you put these 250 pairs of tickets scattered across in a 75-mile radius of the Izod Center. People start collecting these things. Their reactions are, come on, it can't be real, or...
So that's a great point. We monitored Twitter specifically, also the blogosphere, and anywhere we could to see reactions about the campaign, but they were really overwhelmingly positive. People were really surprised. Hold on, I just checked in at this restaurant, X restaurant, and got Nets tickets. Is this? Yeah, people were actually wondering if it was a joke. So a lot of the process was actually having the Nets and Gowalla and also VaynerMedia to some extent interact with people that were talking on Twitter about the campaign to confirm to them that it was a real campaign, that they were real tickets they were getting. People even had questions that we were answering on Twitter. How exactly do I get to the game? I'm in New Jersey or I'm in New York or whatever it would be, and it was a lot of our responsibility to interact with these people that were that were talking about the campaign. But there were some negatives, like who would want to go to a Nets game or whatever that.
Who are the Nets? Did you get any of those?
Right. The Nets didn't have the best season, but it was overwhelmingly positive. We were really happy with the response in terms of how many people were actually so eager to talk about it on Twitter, because they're checking in on Gowalla. They don't have to continue to talk about the campaign. No one's asking them to talk on Twitter about it. So the fact that hundreds of these people were, ecstatic about the campaign, or not all of them were ecstatic, but they were either happy about the campaign, they were dropping the ticket somewhere else, they were either interacting with Gowalla or the Nets, or thanking the Gowalla or the Nets. It was just a really cool process to see people being so happy about the campaign, and that's really what we were going for. Because we wanted to have that, as I said, that wow factor. Like, whoa, I just checked in and I got the item. That's ridiculous. And I think people will get more and more used to it. But for now, it's kind of a novelty. You don't expect to just win something just for going to a location. So,
but so you guys didn't do any marketing about this contest or this initiative at all?
We did a little bit of reach out, but it really wasn't our motive to get press about it, because it was really an organic process. We really saw that, we really wanted people to just go to these locations and have the ability to win the prizes. It wasn't really about generating the press. We thought that maybe if we had the possibility to actually convert people into attendees and have them, do things like buy merch and buy concessions and do all the things that they actually did in the end, we would be able to write this blog post and this case study, which we did. We put out this post, and we've gotten a lot of cool buzz about it, but it wasn't our initial strategy to try to promote the campaign, because we figured enough people were checking in on Gowalla in the New York City area that we would be able to get 250 people to check in and win the prize.
So you said something very interesting there in that conversation, which was people dropping the tickets. So in Gowalla, you can pick things up, you can pick prizes up, and then drop prizes at different locations. People drop the tickets?
Yeah, I mean, there were people that would say, "Hey, I picked up these tickets, but I'm actually leaving town tomorrow morning, or I won't be available that night. What can I do in order to, can I give these to someone else?" And what we answered them was, yeah, you have the ability to drop the location. Just tweet it out when you drop it, and someone else will be able to go up and pick it up. The tickets were obviously transferable, not obviously, but they were transferable. We had a couple people show up that were, hadn't actually won the tickets themselves, but one of their friends did, and they passed it along because they thought it would be a cool chance for their friends to go see the game, which is, it wasn't a problem for us, because, we had the user pick up the ticket, and then they decided it wasn't valuable for them, but it was valuable for somebody else. So that's a whole other kind of angle whole other added value or added bonus for this campaign, is that people were able to gift their friends with these tickets if they thought it was appropriate. So yeah, Gowalla does give the ability for people to drop tickets, and people did take advantage of that.
I just thought of this becomes a standard norm. I run a bar or something like that in New York City or anywhere in North America, and I know that there's these 250 tickets floating around there, because more and more companies will be doing this. And franchises and other things, I could hoard them. I could go and find them and then bring them back to my bar and drop them all in my bar and say, on Saturday night, come on in. I got 50 tickets to give away, right?
You know what? That's very true, and I think that's a good idea. I think that people were mentioning that it was kind of like a scavenger hunt or a treasure hunt of sorts. It really was, because the locations weren't predetermined, but people knew, people were able to go to, people really had the option to go anywhere they wanted and see if they could capture these tickets. So I think that's a really interesting angle.
Well, and the thing that's different again with Gowalla and Foursquare is that you can game Foursquare. Gowalla, you have to be at that or in proximity to that location. I think it's 100 meters or 60 meters or something like that, right? So you can't say that you're in a location and not really be there, right? Which is a huge benefit.
Absolutely. We really, not with this campaign in particular, but there's a whole opportunity for brands, to engage in this space by, yeah, exactly. The Gowalla user has to go to your location in order to do it, or they have to go to the location you decide to move them to. So if the prize is big enough or the incentive is great enough, people are going to actually, move to your location, and then you have the opportunity to sell them there or do whatever you want with them once they're there. So it's definitely, that aspect of Gowalla was definitely important.
Well, and it's so you go through this whole process, and so out of the 250 pairs of tickets, it was how many people actually claimed the tickets?
So we had a 15.2% conversion rate. So I think it was 78 people that showed up, which by some people's measures isn't a great number, but by ours it was a great number. There were a couple.
First time this is run, that's a great number.
Yeah, I mean the first time it was run. It was, the Nets, as I said, weren't the most attractive team this year. They finished they finished the season with the worst record in the NBA. So people that checked in and saw that it was the Nets might not have necessarily been excited about the game. The arena that they played at through this season, the end of the season, was also a bit hard to get to. Yeah. The Nets are actually moving to a new arena in Newark next season, which is great news because it's a lot easier to get to, especially through public transportation. So, there were a couple limitations and a couple obstacles that we had to face, but we were really happy with the 15.2%. We thought that it was a really good number. And the overall motive wasn't necessarily to fill the 500 seats. It was just to see, what we could get accomplished with this type of campaign. And so we were happy with the 15.2.
And then, how do you, so you measure it by people who show up. But you also mentioned in the white paper, you talk about, and you said it earlier as well, about concession buys, merchandising, brand awareness, an affinity to the brand. Like they're in a rebuilding stage, so this is where you really want to build the next generation Nets fan, right?
Absolutely. I mean, let me backtrack a step. I just want to say that, for people that haven't read the case study, once people got to the stadium, they were actually instructed to go to a booth next to the box office and redeem their ticket. And when they got there, they had the ability to collect a free T-shirt, a free sticker, and they also were gifted with pretty awesome seats. I think everybody that came got lower level seats and had a chance to really experience an NBA game, very, very up close and personal. Yeah. They also were reminded to check in because when they got there, they had the ability to win these jerseys that the Nets had provided. So the experience really continued there. For the Nets, for Gowalla, it was great because, there were brand mentions, people were using the service, people were introduced to the service. We had people come up to the table and say, hey, what's going on here? And we would say, oh, well, we're running this campaign with Gowalla, and this is Gowalla, and this is what it does. And we actually had a couple people sign up right there for it. So that was a pretty interesting aspect for Gowalla. For the Nets, we sold some merchandise, we sold some concessions, we sold some parking. The Nets were able to generate a bit of revenue, but it was also more about the fact that we were introducing a new demographic to a Nets game, a group of people that probably wouldn't have gone ahead of time. There were some people that were actually Nets fans and were really pumped about getting the tickets because they were fans, But for others, it was just a new opportunity. And if we convert even one of those people into a fan for life, then it's a really, 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 really positive thing for the Nets. And even if they got a jersey sale out of it, or whatever they got out of it, we were really after brand awareness. We got mentions on Twitter, and we got mentions in the blogosphere, and we're getting press for it now. And the Nets were able to be the first team to do this, which is something that's really cool, and hopefully will be spoken about for a long time. Is that they were the first ones to do this geolocation campaign, or a campaign of this nature. So the the benefits were much more than just generating dollars.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that something that we didn't foresee and we touched on a little bit earlier was just like people were just so happy. people at the game were taking photos. They were tweeting it out. They were talking about how great their experience was. So even that is almost enough for the Nets, in this instance, because it showed a new demographic what an NBA game can be, and hopefully we'll get them again to come out next year and for years to come. So it was much more than just generating money.
Well, when I read that portion about it, that they were just handed tickets at the will call, right? You show up and do whatever you need to do, prove your identity, and then here's your tickets. No, you were ushered in. There was a booth set up with the Gowalla paraphernalia. You got some free stuff, and then you were shown to your seats, and and from the pictures I saw in the white paper, they were great seats. That's a class thing to do, and that sticks with people, right? So the mechanism with which you get them in there doesn't would pale in comparison if you stuck them up in the rafters and just handed them tickets in will call.
Absolutely.
Like, hey, thanks, Nets. I see all those empty seats down there. It's great. Really appreciate that.
Right. I mean, the experience, as I said earlier, did not end just when people entered the door. We wanted people to we wanted the process to continue at the game and even after the game. We wanted people to, they were greeted by a team of, I was there along with a couple members of Gowalla's team and a couple members of the Nets team, and we were all there to greet people and provide them with, an experience at that point. And then they had the game, a free game with great seats, and they had the opportunity to win a jersey. Some of them were signed. There was a Dr. J signed jersey. For basketball fans, it's a pretty big deal. Yeah. There's a Vince Carter signed jersey. Some of the older players that had run through, but that are legends in the NBA. So they were able to interact with each other at the game. I actually saw a conversation, and we posted in the case study afterwards, a conversation between a couple of guys who had met at the game and continued to interact afterwards through Twitter. So there were really a whole bunch of benefits, and it was a lot about the user experience. I mean, that's actually all it was about. We really just wanted to provide them with the best experience they could gain. So we were really proud of the ability to do that.
So that relationship that you brought together, the Nets and Gowalla, kind of being broached and bridged by Vayner Media. So everybody was happy. I got to assume that everybody was happy.
Everybody was very happy. I mean, it was really a success, a massive success in everybody's eyes. The Nets were able to attract a new demographic to the stadium. They were able to provide a fun experience for a group of people that wouldn't have gotten to go to the game, and they generated a little bit of money from it. Gowalla was able to obviously work with the Nets and get the press, but they were also able to provide their own user base with a great experience at a Nets game. So, and Vayner Media was happy because it went smoothly, it went great, and we were able to put out this pretty exciting.
Your idea,
right? It was our idea, and so we even running just running an idea through its actual moving an idea into actual implementation is always fun to do, but the fact that there was so much success from it, and the fact that we got to write this great case study, and all of this has been a lot of fun for us. So, for Vayner Media, it was really about getting the conversation going and providing great value for our client and for Gowalla. So I think that we achieved what we wanted to.
So I got just a few more questions. One of them is, who paid for this? So did the Nets pay Gowalla? Was there, or was this just like a real experiment? Vayner Media gets paid, right? But when you build the custom icons for the tickets and you do those things, I know that Gowalla does that for some specific locations that are relevant, stadiums and those kind of things.
Right.
But was this you had to broker that relationship between the Nets writing a check to Gowalla to get this stuff done?
No, obviously there were fees associated with it. Gowalla did have to make these actual images, and they had to facilitate a campaign. So it did cost money, and it will cost money for brands down the line.
You don't have to tell me how much. But there is, there is a fee involved in here because they don't do this for free, just for awareness.
Right. I mean, Gowalla needs to generate money from this type of thing, and especially if they're going to continue to do it, they need to, they're going to, next season I can foresee I can foresee half of the NBA teams doing something like this.
Absolutely.
So they're not going to just do it for the awareness at a certain point.
Well, yeah, I would. I mean, I'm a believer that you pay for your software. You got to pay them something in order for them to actually be around in a year from now. So whatever they can do. Just one last touch on that 15%. 15% is not a bad number, because if you think about how many people actually use Gowalla, I think the last number I saw was roughly 500,000 people.
Yeah, but around that
Total.
Yeah.
That's not in New York. That's 500,000 people total. Right.
Right.
So, like, you're touching on the early adopters of the technology right now, and that kind of flow through to me is a high number, because New York might be a concentrated area, but it's still 500,000 people in a huge population. So
yeah, I mean, I think that's one thing, is that the fact that Gowalla is only going to continue to grow. Right now you have 500,000 people. I mean, it's not like we ran a Facebook campaign with its 400 million users. So that was definitely something that we considered, and also just the fact that the Nets are going to continue to gain fans as well, because they only really have
one way to go.
Up is the only way they can go at this point. But yeah, I mean, we touch on an early adopter crowd. New York is also heavily. The user base in New York is also heavily Foursquare.
Foursquare, yeah.
So Gowalla is Austin based. It's not as big as Foursquare. I think Foursquare is up at over 1 million users now. Yeah. So working with a very limited user base was also a big complication with the campaign.
Oh, it's a huge risk. Well, I think that let's summarize this. Is that what are the main points that you got out of this campaign, right? Aside from the obvious that, hey, it actually could work. What were some of the leaving points that you said, we just invented a new way to do this? Because I think that's what you guys just did.
Yeah, I mean, I think that what we were really excited about was that without any promotion or without any awareness around the campaign, people were actually willing to go to a location because they thought the incentive was great enough. So it's the fact that you can actually move a population to a specific location if you want to.
It's a few sheep, right? You're just pushing. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's not an easy thing to get people to go somewhere. I mean, if you've ever organized any kind of event, even a birthday party, people will say they're going to go and they just don't end up going. So the fact that we were able to actually move the audience to the actual stadium on game night was something we were really happy about. We see because of this campaign, we see a huge possibility for the event space, and also anybody working with expiring goods, expiring items. Expiring items would be, tickets that are going to go unused, or hotel rooms that are going to go unused one night, or a limited time, offer from a fast food chain. Mm-hmm. Or plane tickets. There's every business has some, not every, but most businesses have some type of expiring good that they can leverage with geolocation. That was one thing we were really happy about. Say a theme park or an amusement park wanted to attract visitors to their location, they can provide people that check in locations around the theme park with free admission to the park that day, and then they're going to generate a lot of positives from that, just like the Nets did with this campaign. So the event space is going to benefit massively from this. One of the biggest, the other big thing we were happy about was we were really surprised at the amount of positive engagement we got. So brands are going to be able to generate all of those benefits that we talked about earlier, but also just the fact that they're going to be getting fans or consumers or Twitter followers to talk to them about their campaign and get feedback and get all these positive elements and statements from people that are involved with the campaign. So we were really shocked at the number of people that were willing to talk about it, and I think that it's just proof that it's going to happen. You know, everything that happened in this case study, the fact that we were able to, or this campaign, the fact that we moved people, the fact that, you know, we provided value for these brands is only going to increase because, like we just mentioned, Gowalla is going to, you know, Gowalla user base is going to improve. That's a big deal because in a year from now, when Gowalla has, you know, 10 million users rather than 500,000, and it might not be that big, but you know, it's going to be really, you know, the game is really going to be location. I think, you know, there's no reason for any brand or any business that has a physical location to not participate in geolocation campaigns like this one, because you're really generating something out of nothing. You know, if you have, you're bringing customers to your location just purely by having them be, by the fact that they're close to your location, and then you're possibly converting them into you know, enthusiasts for your brand and people that are going to come back for, you know, days and months and years to come. So it's really just the beginning. I know it's a vague thing to say, but there's so many possibilities in this space.
And I think that you just have to be able to open up your eyes to them, like you guys did with what you did with the nets. And it kind of leads me to my last question, which is, you know, I follow Gary and I follow AJ and I follow Vayner Media's Twitter feed and all of this stuff, and I understand the philosophy, but I'm a business guy, and I got to ask you this question. You just invented this. Right, so you guys come up with this. You're brainstorming around with the nets. You're trying to figure out how to get more participation. Everything that we just talked about for 30 minutes.
Yep.
You do it. You succeed. You see other companies, you know, the NBA coming on board. They did it. Maybe this is a wrong statement, but they did it because they saw maybe what the nets did, and or maybe they were working with Gowalla. Whatever the reason, you start to see this escalate. So next year, every franchise and every sport, at least one of them is going to be doing this exact same thing in other companies. So you've basically handed this brilliant idea off, and now you have to find that next idea. But as a business guy, you know, I understand the philosophy behind it, but how does it? You're going to watch this puppy grow at a huge rate, and in a year from now, nobody will remember that it was you guys that started it. Does that matter to you guys?
You know, I think that our hope is that, you know, we'll always be in the conversation. You know, there were, you know, Comcast is still known to this day as a brand that really engaged on Twitter and really did customer service right through social media. I think that the Nets have the same opportunity, if this really does take off, to be the ones that were known as the first ones to do it. You know, every time that someone else does this type of thing in the event space, I want to specify that, you know, Gowalla was working with brands before the Nets, but this is the first type of thing to happen with a sports team in the event space, this type of campaign.
Yep.
So, yeah, so anything that happens beyond this, I would hope, you know, that the conversation will always at least reference, and we'll try to help it reference the Nets. But yeah, I mean, it's going to get lost at some point, and it might get lost at some point, and we're going to just have to accept that. But we've generated enough buzz at this point, and we'll always be able to show people that we, you know, that we did this, and that the Nets will always be able to reference this, and so I think that there's some, you know, frustration, obviously, but we'll always be able to say it was ours, and
yeah.
It's you know, it's just been really fun to be a part of it and to run a campaign that might have this, you know, hopefully and should have this ripple effect in not only the sports world but the event space, and not only the event space but with, you know, nearly every brand out there. You know, a couple years ago no brands were on Facebook or Twitter. Hopefully we've just kind of gotten that conversation going and gotten brands to be a part of this, and we can only hope that, you know, the Nets get some credit for being the first ones to do it. So well, not much we can do beyond that.
No, and I think that, you know, it pushes you guys to come up with the next great thing, but it really was. I mean, when I fully digested the white paper, I can imagine the conversation would have been: do we or don't we? Do we do a white paper? Or don't we do a white paper? Do we keep this or do we just bring this to other customers? Because
yep.
You know, this is your IP ultimately.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that was definitely a conversation. We talked about whether or not it was worth it to dish out this information to everybody, but we decided that someone was going to do it in the future, and someone was going to get that possible credit for being the first ones to do it. And it was a great idea, but it's not like it wasn't ever going to happen if we didn't do it.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
we had people write to us and say, you should have charged for this case study. It was really valuable information, and I think you could have gained a lot of money from it. It wasn't, in the end, it would have been great to get money for it. It would be great to get a lot of recognition for it, but it was really just to get this conversation going. And you're right, now it's on to the next big idea. So it's really just what we have to do. As VaynerMedia strives to be innovative and forward thinking, and this is what we have to do is just keep on doing these types of campaigns where that no one's really thought of or executed on yet, and hope that we can just exactly that, just continue to make things happen.
Wow. I have no doubt. I think that this is what you guys did with the nets and Gowalla, I think is incredible. Maybe it was bound to happen, but you know what? I think it just kind of shed a lot of light on what this industry's potential is, and I think that you can. There's now an answer when somebody says, "Why would anybody do this?" Because this is exactly what this industry needed. And when I read the white paper, and for those people who are watching or listening who haven't, go and get this, because it'll change your perspective on how to leverage these tools. If Sam hasn't convinced you already, but I think that it's a turning point for that industry, and as it as we are at the beginning, and as it grows, I'm hoping that they look back at this moment and say, well, you know what? Little company out of New York built this up and did this the right way, and created value for the customer. And go on. Sorry,
I was going to say, people are still talking about how Twitter is going to generate money, or how even though Twitter has begun the process now, it's been a conversation for a long time, and geolocation
too long.
Yeah, and geolocation is just a baby compared to Twitter, and we've already found this way to monetize and to generate this kind of value for brands with geolocation. So, a heck of a lot sooner than the conversation actually got going about Twitter, or some proof was actually shown through Twitter. So it's definitely something we think about, is that geolocation has really proven itself. This is really, an ode to geolocation's ability to help brands, and we're just happy to have done it. So,
well, listen, Sam, I really, really, really appreciate your time going through this white paper. I'm sure you've had a lot of calls, but I really do appreciate you getting into great detail about this. It's a great case study, and a great example of innovative thinking around a very simple idea. It's I appreciate it. Hopefully the viewers and listeners appreciate it as well.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. I can't say it enough. We're really proud of it, and proud that people are appreciating the campaign for what it was. So thanks.
Well, so we've been speaking with Sam Taggart, who's the project manager on this great Nets and Gowalla campaign that VaynerMedia put together. Check it out. The white papers, you can download it at VaynerMedia.com on their blog. What your Twitter account is? My
Twitter is GoSam, GOSAM.
And then there's at VaynerMedia as well.
Yep.
So follow them. Go download that white paper. It'll change the way you think of geo-marketing and geolocation-based services. Sam, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Rob. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.